Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning to all the participants and our today's faculty. Respected Sri Suresh Ramchandani sir. Sri Suresh Ramchandani sir is retired from the post of Joint Managing Director from MSRDCC. See, all of you know that we are conducting this training program on surface and subsurface drainage management. Already started on 22nd of August 2022. So today is the third day of this ongoing training program. Last 2 days we have already covered the requirement and overview of drainage, hydrological design of roadside drain, and yesterday we already discussed on the subsurface drainage and groundwater recharge. So today we will discuss on the sustainable stormwater management. In that, our faculty sir will try to include uh, the details which are also mentioned in our training schedule, such as filtration, convenience, infiltration, retention, and detention. So I will request to the participants, please take the advantage of the lecture of Sri Ramchandani sir, will appreciate the knowledge of our faculty sir, and our faculty sir will try to give all the emphasis on the topic which are very useful to the participants. I will not take much more time. I will request our faculty sir to start his presentation. However, during this 3 hour session, there will also be a 15 minutes time break at around 11:15 to 11:30, and participant can also ask the questions during the presentation with the permission of faculty sir. Otherwise, we are also keeping the question answer session at the end of the presentation. So now I will request Sri Ramchandani sir to start his presentation and share his experience with the participants. Thanking you.
Good morning, Mr. Gupta, and all the participants who are here and already joined and likely to join. Let us make this session very much interactive. If at all some question comes to your mind, don't hesitate to ask, so that we can resolve it then and there and then proceed further. Now, introduction part is over, and let us hope that all the participants will continue right up to the end, so that there is not a single point that they miss out of this particular presentation. Okay, now sustainable stormwater management is the topic of our project here, is the subject matter that we are going to discuss today. And this particular thing has been of great value, particularly to the. Can you see the audio? No. Yes. Can you see the video?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Can
Can you see the slide also? Can you all of them? It's quite cloudy here. Maybe there is some issue with the network also. But then okay, I'm audible clearly.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. Let us proceed. Sustainable stormwater management is the topic which is of great value to people who have been dealing with the drainage in our urban situations. Now, urban situations are developing cities, the smart city development that we have undertaken, and all these new expeditious efforts from government as well as from the local bodies, which have been adding to the road width and road length in our cities. This is of also great value to the areas which have large amount of rainfall during a concentrated rainfall during a period of 2 or 3 months. Maybe the current season is the befitting season for discussing this particular topic. And all the rainfall that falls on the impermeable surface that we create because of the widening of the road and the lengthening of the roads in cities as well as in the rural areas. Presently, we find that lot many road network projects that we do, highway project particularly, state highways and national highways, they are of rigid pavement type. Now, rigid pavement cannot allow rainwater to percolate down below, and as a result, there is a large receiving surface which is concentrating the entire thing into the storm water drains on both sides of the road, and then leading into the culverts or whatever cross drainage arrangements that we have made, the bridges, the small minor bridges, the rivers, the rivulets, all these things are then concentrating into a final storage somewhere, maybe likely in the nearby lake or nearby sea. Now, this is what has been of great concern to all the highway engineers, because the bearing capacity or the CBR value of our soil is CBR. Pavement, and as a result, if the rainwater weakens our soil, there is distress in the pavement which has been designed considering a particular CBR value, and the CBR value goes down because of full saturation of soil, which is carrying the embankment and the pavement on the top of it. Now, this stormwater drainage that we have to properly channelize and manage uh, is of importance to the rural as well as urban areas, as I already told you. But in the urban areas, we are getting more and more of stormwater because of the receiving surfaces of the buildings and other structures. And in the current scenario, we find that there are lot many flyovers, the railway over bridges and other structures, even the metro railway bridges that we have in our cities. So these are the receiving areas, and they receive a lot of rainfall, which gets concentrated into the drainage arrangement that we make. If the drainage arrangement is not properly designed, the stormwater is likely to create flood-like situations on our roads and also on the other structures. We find that in the initial rains, there's accumulation of water on the top of our flyovers because of the clogging of those drains that are already there. The downtake pipes are not cleaned just before the rain, and as a result, water will splash onto the people who are moving down below. And we have seen number of umbrellas getting broken because of big volume of water falling from the top of the river, top of the flyover, which is flooded because of the clogging of those drains. So stormwater management is therefore very necessary, very important, particularly in the urban situations where a lot of population is put to a lot of great inconvenience. They can't reach their office, they can't reach their airport or railway station because of the flooding on the road, the traffic getting slowed down, and a lot of traffic jams happening, particularly during the rainy season. So this is the importance of this topic that I like to now give you in greater detail in the forthcoming slides. Next one, please. Now we welcome you all again. We say, start with this. We try to find out what is the 100-year average rainfall in major cities. Now this slide gives you an insight into the rainfall that we are actually receiving during the last 100 years. So average of the 100 years is like this. New Delhi is 718 millimeters, the Calcutta 2670 millimeters, and Mumbai has got 1971 millimeters. Then Chennai has got 1333, Hyderabad 787, and Bangalore 929. These are major cities that I have listed. You can have the data from the meteorological department and for the place where you are actually working. And the design is based on this collection of data for a long period of time, so that our drainage system in the cities is properly designed and that is taken care of, and that really serves our purpose during the peak season of monsoon. So this is something which needs to be collected very meticulously and for a very long period of time, maybe 50 to 100 years. Whatever data is available, you can get it from the Tehsildar office, you can get it from the meteorological department, or from whatever source. They are actually accumulating this data and keeping it safely. And now days it is all digitalized, so it is easier to get this data without great effort. So I would request all the junior participants to kindly start with this activity, have this data handy so that you can design the drainage system of our roads in city areas, and also wherever you are working in the rural areas, there also this data will be of great help in proper design of our entire system. Next, please. Now we had a very big cloud burst in Mumbai. That was on 26 July 2005. Now, because of this cloud burst, we found that all the roads got blocked. Number of people who were sitting inside the car, they could not come out of the car, and then water entered into the car. The entire system failed. The doors of the car could not be opened because of some automatic locking system, and they were trapped inside the car only. That is what we experienced on 26 July when the rainfall was more than 900 millimeters in 24 hours, and that was a very big thing that we experienced, unusual thing that we experienced in the city of Mumbai, where the population is plus 20 million. So then the local authority, the municipal corporation of Mumbai, Greater Mumbai, they started working on this. They were already having a system in place, but the implementation and augmentation of that particular system was very, very important, and that was to be done in a short duration of time. So estimated budget for implementing the project was more than 12 billion in 2005 as a base year. Now the existing system was more than 70 years old, and as I said, lot many roads, 7 road corridors. Myself was in charge of developing between 2008 and 9 and 10, where we widened the roads. So naturally, the receiving surface was increased, and that entire area was required to be drained into the sea, nearby sea, where the water reaches through a river named Mithi. And whenever there is a high tide, on that particular day also, it was high tide, so the river was not flowing into the sea, but sea was flowing into the river. As a result, there was a reverse flow, and the entire city got flooded um, very dangerously, and everybody was trapped where he was. Nobody could reach home. Actually, entire night, myself was in my office, sitting on the top of the table by putting a chair on the top of the table. That was the situation in many places. Many colleges had asked their students to go onto the top of their terraces of the building, the college building, and all that thing had happened. So this type of improvement, then MCGM planned, and the length of the stormwater drains that was to be improved and reconstructed or widened, or their capacity was to be enhanced, was almost 480 kilometers as per that plan. A lot of work has already been completed, and maybe some minor things are yet to be done. So it was this earlier system, which was 70 years old, was to be augmented like this. But the original system was designed for only 25 millimeter of rainfall per hour, and major outfalls which were leading into the sea, more than 107, and they were also poorly designed for the rainfall conditions, as I just said. But the actual rainfall that we received was really unexpected, and it was too big. And that was the drainage got concentrated because of the urbanization, the widening of roads, the concrete jungle that we have in the city, and all these things have really made life difficult for everybody on that particular day. And it has been repeating in many years later on also, wherever the concentration is huge during a particular hour of rain. So that is maybe the situation in many places, and that is what has led to many decisions at government and local body levels. Next, please. Now, see, can we really think of these things? We must have a sustainable method of conserving the natural sources of water, rain, and groundwater. we must have that system in place for all the cities in our country, and not only cities but even in the rural areas. And nowadays, when we are trying to design these highways and widening them from 2 lane to 4 lane, 4 lane to 6 lane or 8 lane, there also the project development authorities have been insisting that they will have what they call the rainwater accumulation at the places wherever there's the lowest possible area on the side of the road. The side gutters or the side drains, they will drain into that area, and that is what we will be able to do by conserving the natural source of receipt of water, and then protect it, pre- preserve it, and use it for whatever activities are on all along the highway when we need it in the dry season. So that is the insistence in each and every project nowadays. Now, what we do then for all this, we have to do groundwater conservation, bore wells, tube wells, hand operated pumps we install for taking out the water from these sources. But the percolation tanks that we are planning and constructing all along the rural highways also, that makes it possible in a cascading way from one area to the next area to the next, to stop this water, retain it for some time, and allow it to percolate, so that the water level in all these tube wells and the bore wells that we have already dug or we are digging because of the requirement in various areas. Even for construction of these roads, we are required to do some bore welling at a number of places, so that because we have these uh, uh, rigid type of payments all along, and that needs a lot of water for not only this tapping we are doing continuously for developing our project and during the operation and maintenance period of that particular project. So these percolation tanks will help us in getting the water stored or infiltrated into the ground, and that is how the rainwater harvesting, as we call it, and rejuvenation of the dead bore wells or tube wells will be possible. We can have village tanks so that we can retain water in these village tanks in the those who are in charge of highways, they get automatically constructed because we have large borrow areas for construction of our embankments. Do we do use flash also for construction of the embankment, but that gets what you call consumed very fast, and we have to depend on some borrow areas also, and those borrow areas and flyover mix or lime and soil mix that we use for stabilizing the embankments, that is creating a lot many ponds on in the earmarked and which are permitted by the local authorities, the Tehsildar office and the SDO office that we approach. So these particular tanks, which are created because of the borrow areas, they become the village tanks. They become the source of water for the village. They become the source of water for our maintenance of the highway also, and the shoulders and other things that we do in the long run. So in the borrow pit, we can put some impermeable material as a shield all along the periphery. Means we clad the walls and the bottom with some impermeable material, impermeable sheets, so that water is retained inside, and then we have that accumulation of rainwater for use during the dry season. Dams and reservoirs, of course, the irrigation department has been doing all that thing. The rivers will flow into the dams, and they are being constructed, augmented, reconstructed, strengthened, and canal network is there. All those things are already there. But these dams and reservoirs are very high capital cost consuming proposals, and they are only at most suitable locations. They can be constructed only at most suitable locations. They cannot be available everywhere. So these village tanks will always be of great help to not only to the local authorities, the local population, and but also to our project itself, which is to be maintained for a long period of more than 30 years. There are pickup weirs that we can construct at some rivers or rivulets, so that there's accumulation of water for drinking. Some water treatment plants are to be installed. The water is to be made potable, and those things we do. But that all this effort really helps us in recharging the thirsty ground. So we should think of all these things at the time of DPR stage itself, in a in a particular project, so that there is no what you call confusion about going ahead with the storage arrangements of water all along, because we will drain into the side drains, and the side drains will have to be channelized in such a way that rainwater harvesting or rainwater conservation is possible if we plan it right in the beginning and do our what you call the digging or the borrow area excavation in a planned way. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Any audible? I'm audible fully.
Yes, sir. Audible, sir. Audible, sir.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Next one, please. Now, while doing this, if water is there, it must drain and it should go away from our structure. That is what is the theory that we have been always working on. But there are three main S's that we must have. We must make that drainage slow, make it spread, and make it soak into the ground. This helps us in conserving this natural source of water, which we are receiving naturally during all the 4 rainy seasons. So disconnecting the flow of storm water from the conventional pipe system and using all possible alternate methods for recharge. Now, storm waters drains are always there. They are impermeable. They take it away. They take all our water into the further draining arrangements that are already existing, or the cross draining arrangements that are there, or the nalas that we know. And uh, as a result, we lose all the water that we receive on our highway surface, and it drains off. So in the side into the ground, deep into the ground, and will be available for recharge purpose. We can divert the flow into some artificial sump of well-designed of a design capacity, because we know what is the total surface area that will drain into our stormwater drain, and how it will be going into the particular sump that we are designing. So we know the total volume of water that we'll receive from both the side drains, and how to store it either on one side or on both the sides of the road at definite intervals, wherever the lowest point of discharge of the side drains is available. Not only this, if we are in the urban areas, the urban authorities, they do not have a properly trained and what you call well experienced design team, which will be able to do the designing of the urban drainage. So the city engineer may or may not have such type of team. So the highway engineers can always help them by proper planning of the drainage inside the city, which normally they will allow and meet our drainage system on the highway, which may be in the form of a bypass around the city or something like that, and they try to take help of that system. So if that system is to function properly, then we must have a coordination with the local authority. I'll ask them how they are planning to drain out and help them to plan such a thing so that our system will not be overloaded and our design will not fail. So that type of a thing needs to be done by proper planning and coordination with the local authorities wherever our highways are passing around the city or through the city, so that both the purposes of proper drainage and storage, even the rainwater harvesting, are fully and properly served during the entire life of the project. So this thing we must remember while doing our own DPR preparation, and we must have a coordination with these people. And that should be a continuous coordination. It can't be uh, just for a day or two. We must have a proper planning and execution, because they will be executing their drainage system in a particular way because of the road levels. Mostly in the cities, they are not much higher. They are not having much embankment. At many places, they are in cutting also. So they have a different challenge, and that challenge needs to be integrated with our highway system. Normally, we will have an embankment and we'll have a drain level which will be different from the levels which they are dealing with. So we will have to properly plan it out so that the cities will not get flooded, because our highway system is not permitting water from the city to drain out. So that may require some storage arrangement at the end of the drainage system of the local authority have already planned and executed their system. Then we must have that type of additional arrangement of storing that water which is coming towards the highway but cannot pass through the system that we are trying to plan. So then we provide those sums and storage arrangements in that vicinity of that town or city through which we are passing or we are bypassing. Making the side drains with regularly spaced discharge points, perforations, to recharge the soil below, that I already told you. We need not have a impervious bottom of those side drains. We can have vertical drains, which will we provide some perforations of design sizes, so that, and we provide percolation, the permeable material, which will help percolate the discharge into the side drains. I did not actually carry right up to the other end of the side drain where it is discharging into the CD work, because if we overload the river rivulet also, that also going to cause some flooding in the downstream side where available village or town. So that is why these three main S's are there. We have to slow down, we have to spread the water, and we have to soak it into the ground, so that recharging and other things are of help to everybody, not only to the highway engineer, but to the regular population also. Next. So I already said that we must have a coordinated effort. I have just completed this part also. And the trunk drainage system that we design, which has a long spread. I mean, longitudinally, it is a great. It has got a great length in kilometers. But the local authorities, they design for their limited area of the city geography that we have, the geographical area of the city, which keeps expanding also. So they have to design it maybe for the next 20 years or next 25 years or whatever is the norm that they come out with. Generally, the local body will have a plan for development of all the facilities inside the city, the roads, the bus shelters, and many other facilities, the hospitals, schools, and all those things for a period of around 20 years. So that is how they plan it. But we plan a highway maybe for maybe even for a longer period, because most of our highways are on a ham basis or on the concessional basis. So they are for 30 years, maybe for 35 years of concession period. So there cannot be a possibility of augmenting the capacity of the highway or their drainage system that we plan. So we plan for much longer period, and there can be a mismatch between the planning done by the local authority and our planning. So we must have a proper dialogue with them, and a coordinated effort will be very necessary for all those who are dealing with projects which are in the vicinity of the urban area. For an effective implementation of the drainage system, proper coordination between the concerned agencies is compulsory, and urban authorities like Zilla Parishad, the PWD, NHI, MORT, they all should meet together, sit together, and try to plan out these things in a proper way. That will only relieve us of all things that we see and the city comes to a standstill for a day or two in case of very heavy rainfall. It happens not only a city like major cities, but also with smaller cities. So I think this coordination has been lacking for a number of years now. We already celebrated 75 years of independence, and we must now actually wake up to this particular requirement, which I think we have been avoiding. Okay, next. Now see what happens. Median uh, in a highway situation or even in an urban area, there is a divider for channelizing the traffic in both directions. So those median walls or the divider, they are a culprit actually. What happens sometimes, the road is in curvilinear alignment, and the water flows from the super elevated area of the road into the lower area, and the median comes in between, and that median is not taken quite deep, or that is not provided with regular openings, so that or some drainage pipe inside the median. So what happens, whatever water is on the other side, the higher side, comes onto the lower side, and the lower side drain at many places gets silted up, because this water will carry all the silt in the initial rainfall days at the beginning of the rainy season. All the silt will come and sit into these drains. Even if these drains have been desilted in the summertime, the very first rain will make it clogged. I mean, all the drains which are there, the pipes that we have provided in the median, they also get blocked, and the drain on the other side also gets the drain in the median also sometimes gets silted up, and as a result, the capacity of that drain is inadequate, and that is how uh, all these locations which are facing a situation like this, they will be uh, giving us a lot of trouble in maintaining. And even at places in the cities I have seen, there's ponding where the slip road is there, when the left turning becomes impossible because of the accumulation of water, and the people have to go into the in the wrong direction or the wrong corridor to cross that particular spot. And as a result, there are accidents, there are slowing down of traffic, even stand, and they sometimes they come up to a chaotic condition, and hours are lost, not only of the working population, but of the uh, people who have to now restore the entire thing in a very short duration of time. They have to work overnight and see that the system is brought to a proper functioning condition before the next working day starts. So all these things are there, and for that, many of our people may not have availability of machinery and manpower and agencies who can do it so fast. So as a result, the road user in urban and also in the rural areas, in such situations where the curvilinear alignment is there, they are likely to suffer, and we have to avoid that. And for that reason, we must do all the planning. We may even over design these drains. We may over design the cross walls, the median walls through which the water is required to drain into the other side, and make the drains perforated so that the water will go down, and there will be a clean road surface available for road users. So the seepage we must facilitate, and we should not make all those vertical drains also. We should not allow it to get clogged, or if at all they are clogged, we must provide more and more drains, more and more vertical downtakes, so that the drainage is really effective and of use to the people who are likely to depend on that particular road portion for going to their place of work or other. Okay. Now, filtration is the way. The filtration is the way of taking this water into the ground and provide all the things. We may have a proper sub-base layer in the pavement, which will filter the water into the drain, which will allow the water to go into the drain wherever there is a super elevated road, and also it will allow water to drain into the subgrade. And even in the subgrade, we must provide at times uh, the what you call some cross drains with perforated pipes, which are covered with what they call geotextile. So geotextile with perforated pipes has been a system of draining below the pavement, where the sub-base layer will allow water as a to get filtered into the ground, and then in the ground we provide all those things so that water is carried across into the longitudinal drains, and that too in a very systematic way at regular intervals. We provide it considering all the geometrical requirements and the gradient requirements of the drainage system that we have. So this is a very effective way of taking care of a large or huge amount of rainwater that we receive on our impervious road pavement. Next. Now, one way is to directly filter the water into the ground that we already discussed, that is filtration. Now, the second one is conveyance. The natural system primarily that will act as a conveyance channel of the stormwater drainage wherever the structured system supplements them. So, natural drainage in an area. See, we provide the road gradient in such a way that natural drainage is possible. But some places it may not be possible because of the ground conditions where the valley type situation is there. The road is passing through cutting, or it is sloping down to a particular area, and there is likely accumulation of water in that area. So there we have to see that the things are properly designed and supplemented by a structured system, so that there is no dearth of space for water to flow out in a short duration of time. So time of concentration and rainfall, total volume of rain that we receive in a particular period of time, uh, uh, that is what we have to collect as a data, so that we design the system in a structured manner and we provide it. We may even over design it because we know that some capacity loss is likely every year, and it may all drain before the rain starts because of non-availability of resources or manpower or machinery or agency or whatever it is. So all these things are likely to happen. So we must even over design to an extent of maybe 25% or 30% or even more, so that depending on the situation, depending on the soil conditions and the likely obstruction in the drainage system that may be caused. So these are the things that we must even think of, even in the um, uh, preliminary design stage of particular project. There are wide formulation of guidelines is there. There are IRC codes. All these things have been made available to us. But this is all the IRC codes will guide us in a normal situation. But in a particular situation where the things are quite different from the normal or challenging, there we must see that these systems, they don't fail, and they are designed in a better way or for a better capacity as compared to what they have advocated in the guidelines. Now, guidelines are for our guidelines. Guidelines are our guidance, not for um, just trying to stick to them and make our system unoperational in case of an emergency. So you can imagine waiting, or the ambulance is waiting because they cannot cross that particular stretch of road, and the things are chaotic. That type of thing we cannot, as a highway engineers or the road engineers, we cannot allow. So that if that is the situation in our cities or in our habitable areas, then really, nobody is going to excuse the engineering fraternity. Excuse me, I'm just receiving a call.
नीरज जी,
जी सर
वॉइस इज नॉट कमिंग सर, कहीं कहीं
जी सर ना अभी सर से फोन बात कर रहे हैं सर, अभी आ रहे हैं 2 मिनट ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं सर दोबारा, अभी मैं फोन आया किसी का सर जी।
ओके ओके।
চিল্লা চিল্লাও দিয়া সে পড়ছে কেটা জানি।
यस सर
Hello, can you hear me?
यस सर
Okay, sorry, there was an important call, so I had to attend. So, conveyance system that we design is very, I have tried to that it should be a proper capacity and it should be in structured manner that we can carry to regulate. Hello?
Continue, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. 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 Waterways are always to be protected. Now they are designed. Now waterways that have been designed and the river we provide the bridge that cannot be extended. So we have to distribute our accumulation of highway into the nearby drainage system or city work or on a bridge on the upstream or downstream, whatever we plan, in such a way that it doesn't make that existing structure inadequate. So we have to plan it. We have to see that all these existing structures they do not suffer because of our addition of drainage into that area. So we have to formulate that we have to follow the guidelines. We have to see that the existing, maybe the existing bridge could be which is there at the end of our longitudinal drains on both sides of the road, which have been designed long back, might not have considered so much of accumulation because our road has been widened from 2 lane to 4 lane, 4 lane to 6 lane, 8 lane, whatever. So the total amount of water that was come to that particular point might not have been considered in the original design. And now there's a huge accumulation immediately on the upstream of that structure. That also needs to be avoided by a proper infiltration and conveyance system. Conveyance to a point which is possible. It may not be the same point that is there in our site. It can be a different point. It can be a different storage arrangement. It can be to a point on the other side of the road where borrow areas have made available some storage facilities to be created. All these things can be considered and integrated in such a way that we do provide adequacy of this drainage without depending on the existing structures which have been designed and constructed long back. So whenever we do a widening of a particular bridge also, we are widening. A lot of connection of water is there on the top. So the water spouts, they have to drain into the river only directly by concentrating all the rain accumulation on the top of it, and it goes into that river. And the linear waterway normally was provided for the earlier 2 lane bridge is kept the same even for the new bridge, unless there is a real possibility of reconstructing or a necessity of reconstructing the old bridge so that we provide a better waterway in the new, and then we demolish the old one and then construct the a new one of a longer length with a better linear waterway, looking to the flooding conditions and the development that has happened between the earlier design and construction and the current situation. Of that original design is not brought to a question because of these new things that we are adding in our highway system, and our drainage system needs to be planned, conveyance system of the road. So far, if you have, please, anybody has got any query that has come to his mind? Next slide, please. See, here trying to show greenery that we have in the of the road, or even on the sides. The sidewalk is there, and there are plants that we do provide in such a way that they absorb most of the water draining from the road, the impervious area of the road, into this soft area, which is there sometimes between the walkway and between the there's the side drain. There is some space which is available, which we provide with the greenery. It adds to the beauty, it adds to the greenery, it adds to the present look of that area, and that is how we are in a position to absorb some additional quantum of drainage water that is received, and use it for the plantation through these planters, which are to be provided wherever possible, for whatever length possible on either side of the road. They will not only prevent erosion of our embankment, they will absorb all the water, most of the water, and even if our drainage system becomes inadequate because of silting or other things, that these plantations or the planters that are there, eh, that particular inadequacy of that drainage, availability of the drainage system. But these planters, they will also prevent the silt and the soil to flow into the drainage system. So that is how both ways they will help us. They will absorb water, they will prevent silting also. And if at all it has been silted already before this plantation, if desilting is not possible or has not happened, then also they will be of great help to us in preventing further silting. Next. Next one. Now, the planters that we defined as the confined landscaped areas designed to capture and retain the runoff, and the rainfall happens in a particular period of time, but that runoff keeps happening for a long period of time, because we may have the road system gradients in such a way that water keeps flowing along the road on the edges or across the road because of the other geometrical requirements like super elevation and all these things. So that runoff has to be captured by these planters, so that the, this the velocity of flow is also reduced, and the total volume of flow is also reduced, so that the drainage system functions in an adequate way and in an efficient manner. So infiltration and flow through the planters are structural landscape reservoirs used to collect, filter, and infiltration of the stormwater runoff. These are things that to slow it down. We said there are three S's that we have to follow. So we are trying to slow it down. We are trying to provide a landscape. Now see, wherever there are interchanges are there, you'll find there's a big area within the road that we have constructed around that interchange. That entire area is needs to be properly landscaped, so that the drainage in that area is possible, and there is no accumulation of water leading to breeding of mosquitoes and all filthy conditions that we are likely to face. So there we have to provide and design the drainage system in a more efficient way, so that big confined areas in an interchange, they are not becoming a source of uh, health hazard for the road users or for the people passers by who are maybe staying near that area, maybe using that area for their morning walk or whatever. All those things we have to plan in such a way that landscaped reservoirs are constructed at such areas, so that water is duly channelized into those arrangements. So the pollutants inside the pollutant in the flow, that water is flowing a long distance, and they are carrying a lot many mineral and chemicals also sometimes. So they will allow the pollutants to settle and filter out as the water percolates through. So that is the advantage of making our highways greener and soil erosion and infiltration of water. We can ensure erosion, we can avoid, and infiltration of water we can ensure into the ground through these planters. The flow rate and volume, as I just said, that can be managed and that can be reduced so that the erosion can be avoided, and all the conditions which are healthier that can be ensured there. Okay, next. This I already covered. Water level of the runoff retained is about 150 to 300 mm. Now, particularly in these plant areas that we provide, the water runoff depth of about 6 to 12 inches or 150 millimeters to 300 millimeters is common. And we have to design and we have to provide some arrangement so that that water is available for this planter area to remain green, and and over accumulation is also avoided, and availability of water is also ensured. We have to do those the heights of the curbing system on both sides of the planters in such a way that sufficient water is retained and accumulated for these areas to remain green without much effort. Next. Next one. Now, infiltration is one of the top topics that is given in our syllabus for today's presentation. The urban road drainage system will be quite efficient if part of the water is allowed to infiltrate into the ground. That is how, see, if we make the drains impermeable, then it requires more capacity. It requires bigger design, bigger volume of material to be consumed. And then it becomes difficult to manage also or maintain also. So that is how we provide this drainage system with some infiltration arrangement. The bottom of all these side drains are provided with vertical drains or vertical perforations, which will allow water to go into the ground. Sometimes the lower side of those side walls of the drain, they are also provided with openings so that water will flow into the ground on sides also, but not on the roadside, on the other side, away from the road, and that is the way we do, so that no saturation of soil will be retained for a longer duration under the pavement, but water will flow on the other side. So that is the way we do it. The primary advantage is the reduction in the quantum of water at the final disposal location, which may add to more problems if we don't do this infiltration arrangement all along the drainage system. So in the urban area, these things are possible and these things are necessary also. In the rural areas, it may, because we have a vast ground area on either side of the road, there it is very easy for the water to flow into the ground. But in this urban area, these systems are necessary and very important. Next one. Now, the advantages of infiltration we already tried to know, but there is a secondary advantage also. It will be recharging the urban ground water, which is depleting at alarming rate. Now, we know in many cities, I don't know whether all people who are participating here are aware, we had to send water back train to some of the villages and towns in Maharashtra in one particular summer, where no water was there. So recharging of the ground is achieved through this infiltration. If we do it in the urban areas where the population needing and consuming water is quite substantial, and recharging has become difficult because of impervious way in which we have tried to widen the road from compound wall to compound wall. There it becomes very difficult for water to reach the ground, and as a result, there is a great loss of water table, lowering of water table, and that is a secondary advantage if we provide the infiltration arrangement in our side drainage of the roads. So it will commence at the street drains and will continue all along the conveying system. The conveyance is to be designed so that it will be taken to a final harvesting arrangement that we have made inside the city. And rainwater harvesting has been mandatory in many cities. So in Tamil Nadu, they said if in a 3-story building, irrespective of the size of the rooftop area, you must provide a rainwater harvesting arrangement. So these developments in a city and the expansion of the city area is unavoidable. The smart city that we are trying to develop at many places, those smart cities will have a lot of additional roof area, additional surface area of the transportation system, the road system, and many other things. So as a result, rainwater harvesting becomes very important. So there's a compulsion in many cities. All new water and connections are to be provided to those buildings in these like Tamil Nadu. They are to be provided after the installation of the rainwater harvesting system. If there is no rainwater harvesting system, you will not be provided with water connection or the pure connection. So that is the norm that they adopt in some cities. There are some few more examples. I don't know whether they are included here. We will try to see. Next. Next one. Now, when you try to dig a borewell, you will find that the depth of the borewell is at some places it is more than 150 meters, 200 meters, 250 meters, and that is the depth. From that depth, water is available, but may or may not be available throughout the life of that borewell, and that requires a very big effort to lift water from that particular level. So energy consumption increases as we go deep into the ground. So we have to see that recharging and availability of groundwater at a particular level, which is manageable, consumes very reasonable amount of energy only is possible. So that is again carbon rating and all those things, carbon credit that we can earn if we reduce our energy consumption for lifting of water for our use in the city area. So that is how this infiltration is needed to see that recharging and availability of water at the reasonable depth below the ground is ensured. From the pickup here also, sometimes the water is wasted. That dam becomes full. The water storage arrangement nearby the town that has been provided by the irrigation department or many other departments who are in charge of that, the water supply and drainage department. They provide it, but those weirs become full because of heavy rain in the initial stages of the rainfall itself, and then all the water is wasted, and that water goes down. So we have to see again a series of such pickup weirs are constructed so that we do provide more recharging of the water in the ground itself. So there are possibilities of flooding also because we are allowing water to go away from the storage arrangement and go down in the downstream side. There, if the things are not properly protected, then the erosion of the the flowing arrangement is inadequate, then erosion will happen and things will again lead to more and more damage to the people who are staying on the banks of those rivers or nalas which are flowing. So all these things they add up and they become very difficult to manage in a situation that we have already seen on TV during this particular monsoon also, that many people staying on the banks of the river, they lost their houses and all that. So all that we can avoid if we do this infiltration, means drainage into the ground as fast as possible. Anyway, above the ultimate disposal runoff, we have to reduce and we have to see that it goes, the recharging becomes our focus and water goes deep into the ground wherever it is possible, be it urban area, be it a rural area. Next one. Now, infiltration also we have to design with a caution. If we try to do and store water or try to make it drain into the ground where already the rainwater water table is high, then it is of no use. So we have to make a conveyance system, take it to the area where there is a dearth of water or there the water table is much lower, because we can see it from the existing tube wells or the bore wells in which area the water table is low, in which area the water table is high, and accordingly we design this conveyance system and infiltration system so that we provide water in an area where it is necessary. And infiltration is also infeasible in areas with deep slopes, steep slopes, or with high clay content soil. If the clay content is high, the conditions will become very soft. The things will become unmanageable. There also we have to see that uh, infiltration is avoided wherever there is a good percolation, so that water level is improved, but not at the cost of damaging our structures or damaging our highway or the road that we already planned. Already our roads, they require a lot of care and effort for maintenance. So we cannot do this at the cost of damaging our own assets. So that is how we have to be cautious while planning these facilities. We cannot do it as a routine at every 100 meters you provide this. So we have to first take some survey of that area and then avoid those areas which are already wet and saturated and go into the dry areas which have got deeper water table. Next one. So there are various methods of infiltration. Use of secondary drains of porous layers and filter material. Now we can see longitudinal drains are there. We can provide some secondary drains to carry water away from the longitudinal drains. Use some porous material, provide some layers of porous material in that. They provide these arrangements in the soak pit or in the areas which are not properly provided with the drainage arrangement or with the municipal arrangements for the disposal of waste. So there they provide this type of thing. The septic tank and the soak pit arrangements that they provide. So similar arrangements where porous layers can be provided in such a way that water will be draining away from the main drain and away from the pavement also. So detention and retention of ponds can be provided. These conveyance systems or the drainage arrangements that will finally lead into the detention and retention ponds that we have been discussing. And use of porous layer in the pavement also will make water flow away from the pavement structure and go into the side storage or in the side drains. Pond. Parking lots are impervious. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the parking lot, they find that there are certain things which are impervious. Now, these impervious parking lots, they again add to the accumulation of water, and then it becomes difficult to dispose it off. So, provide pervious or provide vertical drains if impervious surface is unavoidable. Then you provide vertical drains so that whatever water is collected in those areas is drained off quickly, and parking lots are kept in a proper usable condition. These deep bore wells be provided in tertiary or secondary drains, more so in valleys, valley portions, and for infiltration of water into the ground. Uh, Anybody can realize this. Okay, this can help us in effective and faster disposal through infiltration method. Overflow from the green areas should also be should go to the nearby open land, parks or existing pipe system after passing through the infiltration layer. So depending on the type of stormwater facilities implemented and their size. The overflow in the green areas, see in the roundabouts, you will find that lot of accumulation of rainwater is there. Then it overflows into the road pavement area. Instead of that, we should lead it into the green areas, which are at a lower level, so that there's overflow onto the road with silt and dust and slippery conditions developing on the road that can be avoided. So this type of thing needs to be planned. Next one. Welcome, Mr. Paniwala. Next one. So rain gardens are shallow. You see infiltration. We are trying to the previous one. Can you go back? Can we go back, please? Yeah. The rain gardens are shallow landscape areas that can collect. They can slow down. They can filter, and they can allow water to flow. So that is possible, but it is not. I mean, taken care of while planning. So if we don't do that, it becomes a source of maintenance. I mean, difficult maintenance at a later stage. So we must take care of that and provide it. This we already covered. Next one. Next one. This is the thing we have been working on. So rain gardens retain storm water. They reduce the flow rate and overall volume of water. They can also allow the infiltration depending on the capacity of the native soil. So you see the soil condition also needs to be considered while planning these facilities. If the soil conditions are impervious, like it is a clay, then it leads to a lot of other problems also, because it is very slow in draining water. So we have to provide certain systems like I said, geosynthetic covered pipes below, so that water will be drained away, because total capacity of water that is retained in that soil, if it is over, I mean it is saturated, then balanced water must drain out. Otherwise it will become difficult to manage, and that overflowing onto the road and slippery conditions that will be there at the intersection. At the intersections we provide these green islands, which can act as rain gardens to take all the storm water from all over the area. And then it avoids the slippery conditions are the things that I a little bit talking of. So you see at the roundabout, because of the geometry and because of the other obstructions on all the sides, sometimes it becomes too difficult to maintain clean and hygienic conditions. Um, Even if the things have been planned properly, because of this overflow from the garden. So we have to avoid it. We have to keep those levels in such a way that even some accumulation of water will not make the roundabout unusable, and that's how we make the road safer for the road traffic. Oh, I have tried to emphasize here that there's a possibility of a cloud burst. We have designed the rainwater drainage system on either side of the road in urban area for a particular rainfall. Like I said, it was designed long back in Mumbai. So there's a possibility of a sudden cloud burst, or there is a possibility of a sudden rainfall. So overflow options have to be there, and these drains, even if they are adequate in normal conditions, they may prove to be inadequate. For that, we have to provide these additional arrangements of overflow or the side flow or the punctures on the side of the side drains away from the road area, so that the things will be taken care of in case of such an emergency. So all these, whatever ways we can think of, all those ways and means we must follow and adopt, so that the things are taken care of. And if road is not drained properly, it will have a much shorter life. So draining of all the water that is accumulated on the road during the rainy season, and under those conditions, when the road is under heavy traffic, the deterioration is very, very fast. So we have to avoid that type of thing by proper uh, forethought right at the time of DPR. In Australia, when we went for a training program of 10 weeks, we found that 4% of the total project cost is being provided for drainage of roads. Wherever a road is reconstructed or widened or improved or even new construction, they provide this 4% as the specific provision for drainage of road. That is their requirement. And it is well known that in Australia, there is not concentration of rain. There is a rainfall throughout the year. There is a rain almost every day because it is an island type of a continent. So there's a rain, and most of these cities are along the coastal area only. Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, all these are Adelaide. All these cities, they have developed along the coast only. So near, because they have got harbor, they have got shipping, transportation, and so many things on which they depend. And that is how they take care of their roads. Even at a scanty rainfall that they receive during the entire year, I mean, it is not concentrated like in India. Still, they provide such a big provision for drainage arrangement. Now, in the green areas, that curbing will definitely avoid spillage of soil onto the ground, onto the road or the traffic flying area, and that is need to be designed. 300 to 500 millimeter of the curb size need to be provided. We know that these are provided, but they are not maintained. Sometimes that is damaged and they are not replaced, so that doesn't serve the purpose. And any small break in a particular stretch can lead to a lot of chaotic conditions on the road. Particularly these two-wheelers, they find it very difficult if it is slippery. So we have to be careful and plan it in such a way that it is durable, and if it goes bad, it is damaged, then it is repaired immediately. Next one. Now, the basic design parameters that we have to calculate, we have to use for design of these facilities for drainage is calculate the infiltration rate of a particular site, reduce the impervious area, that will reduce the amount of runoff needed, runoff for which we have to design that particular system. And then we must add some 25% so that we should be able to manage any unforeseen conditions. So additional under drain perforated will be required for soils with low infiltration rates or low permeability, so that the excess water can get away to the stormwater drain system in the shortest possible time. So that is another parameter that we must consider while designing the system. Next one. Now, rainwater from bridge decks. Actually, only yesterday I found one bridge deck draining, the water spout draining onto the road below, and the roof of the what you call auto rickshaw moving below getting damaged. Then the passenger inside the auto rickshaw got unaware of such a thing happening. So water falling from the top of the flyover through the drain onto the people moving below. That is a very unsightly and very difficult to imagine condition for people who are dressed up and going to for a particular function. If they face such a situation, it becomes really bad for them, and it gives bad name to the people who designed this particular system. So a lot of storm water is collected on the bridge, and is normally the drains are normally choked and they are not cleaned in time. So that system is wasted, that arrangement is wasted, and people are put to a lot of inconvenience. There's a huge volume of natural water that can be collected, and it becomes difficult to manage it. And either it will flow along the flyover, or it will drain through the side vertical water spouts, and it falls onto the ground. The water spouts must be carried right up to the ground. We will not allow water to fall directly. Now, at some places we have found that they provide some perforated plate below the that draining water spout. and that only distributes the water, but still it is falling from a very big height, so it becomes quite difficult for the people down below with an umbrella to pass under that uh, or parallel to that bridge on the footpath or in the arrangement that is made for the pedestrians. So we have to be very careful. Next one. Now there is another topic that they have said is the retention and harvesting. So rainwater harvesting we have already said, and retention and harvesting is the name of the both sides of the same coin. So according to the rule, for a cover area of over 1,500 square meters, one percolation well is mandatory to ensure ground storage recharge. As a thumb rule, they do it like this. But then everywhere, the rainfall intensity, the rainfall spread, the concentration of rain, all this needs to be studied to decide how many square meters will require what size of well or what size of the tank, retention tank that we have to construct. So central groundwater authorities have banned drilling of tube wells in notified areas. Now they say no tube well within say about 200 meters of an existing tube well. So those are the guidelines that they have issued, and they have stopped giving permission for drilling of tube wells. So that makes us better water table available for the tube wells which are already in existence. So these are some of the measures that authorities take, but people uh, they don't declare, they start digging, and that is how the water table also depletes, and everybody is put to inconvenience. So that is what retention of water through these measures, I mean, by avoiding drilling of tube wells in the vicinity of each other, and cover for any roof area that we cover, for every covered area, we provide a proper storage arrangement. This will help us in improving the retention and rainwater harvesting. In some cities like Indore, a rebate of 6% on the property tax has been made available. Now, this is only to encourage and see that the rainwater harvesting is insisted and actually implemented in various areas, or particularly in the city area. Next one. Next slide, please.
Sir, shall we break for 15 minutes, sir?
Yeah, yeah. We will. If you are very particular, we'll stop and then we'll restart. Okay, no problem. So in
Sir,
the
15 मिनट का
meantime,
ब्रेक कर लेंगे सर,
all
11:30
the
में ज्वाइन कर लेंगे सर.
participants. In the meantime, all the participants may come up with some queries, which we'll discuss in the next half.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
जी.
and we see you after 15 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Can clean it properly if we can provide the retention facilities in the nearby areas, and use that water for cleaning these structures and making them look aesthetic and beautiful. For low ground water table also, the infiltration facilities provide significant water quality benefits, and although the groundwater recharge is not the primary aspect of the urban stormwater drainage management, it is recommended for primary benefit of the urban areas. Now, urban areas normally there will be a supply point. That supply point, and there will be a water treatment plant, and all those things are there. But water that we get from rooftops and in the harvesting arrangements that we are providing and insisting, that can be used for gardening and other cleaning purpose and other things, and that is how the precious treated water, the misuse of the treated water, that we can avoid. So this is the way we the retention ponds that I already talked of, they can be natural ponds, they can be they are the temporary draining systems of the storm water, and these ponds they fill with storm water and release water over a period of a few days, slowly returning to its normal depth of water. So recharging can be effectively done by these retention ponds, which I said we can convert the what you call the borrow areas into these retention ponds. As these have to be maintained, they have to maintain a particular permanent pool. They can't be constructed in areas with insufficient rainfall or highly permeable soils are there. There we can't construct that. So where the impermeable soil is available, we provide some cascading type of arrangements. One pond is full, then the lower pond will get full, then again the next lower pond will get full. This is the way we provide, and water keep moving from one area to another area, and that is how the retention ponds help us in improving the holding capacity of the ground on either side of our highways or on the areas which would require some water for further improvement and development, maybe the gardening and greening of that area, all those things. So retention ponds can have aquatic habitat if properly planted and maintained. So some local people can do some fishing or something like that. So that can also be a source of employment for the local people if we provide this. So it has many advantages which we can always list out and try to see that this particular thing we are doing to get all those advantages for the project as a benefit of the project. So regular cleaning and maintenance of these retention ponds, desilting will be required, and proper drainage will also have to be there. Otherwise, if we don't take care of that, then sometimes the side walls may collapse, the other things may happen, and the capacity will go on reducing. So that is why normally series of retention ponds are constructed, so that water from one pond will get accumulated in the lower pond. That is what I said. So open spaces in the city parks can have such retention ponds, and that adds to the beauty. Rejuvenated, they will find it more entertaining, and all those things can happen. So those are the latent advantages of providing such things in some busy areas or some areas which are frequented by people from the city and also from outside. In some areas, we found that if we provide on the footpaths or in the walkway area, if we provide these paver blocks with perforations, then that landscape that adds to the grace, that adds to the cleanliness also, and it adds to the rejuvenation of the groundwater also. So parking lots and the footpath areas that can be used for this thing, but this provision needs to be made in the DPR itself so that we can proceed with the execution of these facilities properly and in a systematic manner without disturbing the sequence of operations of the highway construction or the road construction widening or utility shifting also. It becomes easy if we provide these perforated power blocks, then remove them, replace or realign the utilities in that area, and again replace these power blocks so that the digging of the costlier work that we do on the top, the bituminous or other type of surfacing that we provide, that can also be avoided. So in the last lane, which is closer to the drainage arrangements, we can provide these power blocks, perforated power, or on the pedestrian walkway also, these can be used. So this has been another method of draining and retaining water in the ground. Next. Next, please. Hello.
चेंज सर सर स्लाइड चेंज कर दिया सर
No, I don't think any of us have not collected. Hello. Hello. कर दिया. I don't think any of us has not seen that activity of collecting water in the containers and buckets during our childhood. So all this water can be used for washing and gardening at home. That is what we did long back in our childhood. But nowadays we have to have such training classes and have to insist on these things so that the things are taken care of and they are actually put to good use, not as a childhood prank, but also as a structured method of collecting water and storing it and trying to do it in a channelize it in such a way that we take the fullest advantage of the natural gift that is rain that we are getting every time. And that is the way the authorities are insisting, the authorities are trying to make it compulsory. The builders have to provide such arrangements for water retention, and all these things are there. So detention, retention, and infiltration, all these go hand in hand to help us not only strengthen and make our structure, the road structure durable, but also provide these things for further use in our daily life. So I'm really to discuss all these things with you because this has been something which was missing in our planning and designing of highway construction, and rightly this is being insisted for all the planners and designers of our future projects and even the augmentation of the current projects that we have in hand. So participants, they should take note of these requirements as the event that we do during our service life. Next one. Next one.
Yes, sir. सर स्लाइड चेंज कर दिया सर.
Now there are again some detention types. Detention ponds are the temporary holding areas for stormwater drainage, and that is the parks that that is the thing that parks water for some time during the peak flows and slowly releases them, reducing the demand on treatment facilities during the storm events and preventing flooding. So we know that even in urban areas, whatever storage the municipal authorities have planned, that was planned long back with a projected requirement for of the next maybe the current century. But now the things are becoming sometimes inadequate. But that water which can be stored is limited, but the water that is required is the requirement of water goes on increasing every time. So these arrangements of retention systems, they will definitely help us in tiding over such situations which are being faced frequently and in different places. Detention ponds are designed to fill and empty within 48 hours of rainfall and could reduce the peak flows and runoff volumes. Now, the size of the pond will decide the rainfall intensity will decide what should be the size of the pond, in which area we are actually constructing, and how and where, how it will get emptied and how it will be put to use. So they can be used to provide flood control measures also, and in rural areas they also serve the purpose of retaining the fertile soil on the top of in the fields, which normally would wash away or will get washed away because of the intensity of the rain that we receive. So the cascading arrangements there also they will help us in better retention of that fertile soil also. So this is how we have been trying to introduce these methods of retention of water, and which help in avoiding erosion also. So I think we can go further and continue with the remaining slides. Next one. These grass swells are simple drainage and grass channels that primarily serve the to transport the stormwater runoff away from the roadways and right of way. You will find that receiving area into the drains which are at the shoe of the embankment or at the toe of the embankment, and from there that is taken away. But in other areas also, if we provide these grass channels, which are named swell, and that is how we can prevent the embankment erosion or the damage or the rain cuts that we provide, that we normally see by provision of all these arrangements. So this provides both quality and quantity of water to be controlled by facilitating stormwater detention, and grass wells are used at low density residential projects or for very small impervious areas. So see, this is something, some way to slow down the flow. That is the only purpose all these things will serve. Next. So I have tried to cover whatever syllabus was mentioned for today's program, but then we may have a lot many things. We have got I've got some more slides which are which I can discuss if you don't have many questions. But I think we should be able to discuss whatever we have covered so far, and for that you have got some time. So kindly um, feel free to have your questions, not only questions but your suggestions also on the presentation that we have already seen, so that because I have got some presentation which is more relevant for the hilly areas, but hilly area drainage and other things I think is being covered under a separate head, which can be shared by some other speaker. So I would not like to encroach upon that, but we can always discuss certain things which are presently mm, being discussed. All the items that we have just discussed, we can have some questions. Any questions? Dattaji, are you wanting to say something?
Yeah.
Mr. Nihar?
Now the participants are requested. Please ask your questions or clear your doubts, if any. Uh, Participants are again requested. Please ask your questions.
Narsim Kumarji, welcome. Can you have any questions? on stormwater drainage management systems. गुप्ता साहब, अगर कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है, होना तो चाहिए, क्यों नहीं है क्वेश्चन? इतने लोग, 100 लोगों से ज्यादा पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं, सबको म्यूट कर रखा है ना आपने?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, yes, sir. I think that
कोई
participants
कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहेगा तो म्यूट है.
I think that participants would ask questions so that we can
You can ask them to raise the hand and then unmute him so that he can ask.
yeah. The participant also unmute themselves also. There is no question about that. But
Okay.
participants should ask the questions.
Yeah, there should be. Yeah. So then only it is interactive. Otherwise, what happens? It is a one way, and what they have missed. If the question comes, we know what part they have missed.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah, participants are requested. Please ask your simple questions.
ये storm water drainage
Yeah,
system design
yeah.
किया होगा. He can share something so
Yeah.
that others will benefit. There can be some participants out of 100, 120, whatever, who might have designed or might be in a process of designing and constructing the sustainable stormwater drainage system in a city, or maybe some stormwater drainage system along the highway. That is the thing. So they can always share, or they can be facing some difficulty while doing that. So that can be addressed and that can be discussed. This is a proper forum for discussing this.
Yes.
LT Puya Sahab, can you ask any question pertaining to your work?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please, welcome.
Sir,
Tell
I
your
am
name,
Bini
please.
Palan.
Okay,
I'm Bini Palan. I'm from Arunachal Pradesh.
okay.
Sir, can stormwater can be constructed along the highway where we have a one-sided this developed area or built-up area on one-sided hilly area? Actually, sir, problem is that the drainage which we are having along the highway in our hilly area. So the water comes with the debris, which is
Yes.
not sufficient to cater the this runoff water or the debris.
Yeah,
And
that is why
bridge-
that is why this is very important, that while working in a hilly area, you assess the quality of water reaching the stormwater drain. How much silt and debris is likely to come, and that needs to be assessed so that the size of that stormwater drain can be properly designed, the depth can be properly designed, and the intervals at which we can provide that is available. So wider drains are difficult to provide. Only the depth of the drain that we can increase, and we can provide cleaning arrangements at shorter intervals so that this desilting of those drains can be done regularly. So that avoidance of stormwater drain is not possible. We must provide, and otherwise all the debris will fall, come down and spread on the road, make it very slushy and very difficult to drive. and particularly for two-wheelers and small light vehicles, particularly in rainy season, it will become really a great skill to drive along that road. So that is the importance for which we must provide properly designed stormwater drains. So hilly drainage systems that is being covered separately. During that, you will get a lot many ideas how to provide it and where to provide it and what way to design it. But what I can tell you is, a stormwater drain along any highway needs to be designed for that particular area, depending on the rainfall and the erosion conditions of the soil. Along with the soil, there is a possibility of some trees, bushes, and branches coming and clogging the arrangement that we make. Sometimes those bushes and branches will fall on the top of that drain, and they will not permit road drainage to reach that particular stormwater drain. So those things are there. So, but that regular cleaning and designing of those drains for that soil load or other debris load, that needs to be done in a proper way.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question? We are expecting lot many queries and lot many site difficulties that you are facing.
Continue or not?
Yes. No participant is willing to ask any questions now. There is no tax on questioning. Siddharaju, yes.
No question.
There's no fees
No,
also
sir, no, sir.
for questioning.
No.
Siddharaju sir, are you in a position to ask something?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. What is the project that you are working on?
Working for road
Are you
section, sir.
working in office or in the field? Yes?
Field, sir. Field, sir. Field, sir.
The field. What type of road or what type of drainage arrangement you are actually doing, actually working on?
Earthen drain, sir. Earthen drain arrangement.
Earthen drain. What is the size of the drain that you are actually
Village
constructing?
road construction, earthen drain
Okay.
arrangement.
So, what is the size of the drain that you are dealing with?
45 depth, sir.
45 centimeter depth.
45.
It is trapezoidal or
0.6 by 45. 0.6, 45, sir.
okay.
According to road.
Rectangular drain.
Rectangular drain, sir. Rectangular drain.
Okay. Are you pitching it or are you pitching it?
No pitching, sir. No pitching, sir.
Okay. And what is the length of the drain that you are actually constructing?
Only earthen drain or 2 kilometer road will be construction. Then will either both side will be earthen drain will be construction.
Yeah,
Not
but
CC roads.
I want to know from you, if earthen drain construction is a part of that highway construction, and the contractor does not do that work, completes all the activities, but does not do that earthen drain, or he does it half-hearted, are you going to clear his bill?
Clear, sir. Only I will construct a village road, sir. then we'll construct the earthen road for both sides, sir.
And I'm saying if the drainage arrangement is not completed by the contractor, are you going to clear his bill?
Drainage arrangement will be clear, then we'll clear to bill, sir.
How much
Yes,
amount
yes,
you will
sir.
retain? How much amount you will retain from his bill so that he will be compelled to do the earthen drain work also?
What, sir?
How much amount you will retain from his bill so that he can be compelled to complete that earthen drain work also, which is a part of his contract.
So in the estimate will provision how much length will be completed, then will clear to the bill, sir.
I'm trying to,
Contractor is completed the drain, how much length, then will clear to the bill, sir.
but had he done the drain excavation before construction of the road, that would have helped you in getting the material for your embankment.
No, sir. The 30% usage of the material, either 30% or 40%, then will material to be deduction, sir.
Then if you do the drain excavation later on, then that earthwork you will have to dispose of, for which you may not find any space.
Suppose it is used to embankment of the drain material, then will deduct to the contractor side, sir.
Okay. If there are no questions, we can close this session.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We can close the session because the topics that you had given me, they are all covered,
Okay.
and there are no questions.
Okay. Again,
I would like to send you one questionnaire which you can circulate to all participants, and they reply to those questions so that we know that something has gone up to them after discussion.
okay.
Is it okay?
If any question is left, please ask your question. Otherwise, we will conclude the session.
Otherwise, questions will come from me.
Yeah.
Okay, I wish you all the best, everybody. See you again later on.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Who's
We'll
participant?
close the meeting a little earlier, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.